So where I'd left the last chapter of Misty runs and runs and runs, Mom had pulled the car up, looked in the ditch at the crash scene, and she'd heard the overview of it as I told her what had transpired as we'd been traveling up to get the saddles. And she turned to me and said, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I kind of looked at her. I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, you're 13 years old now. Have you given consideration to what you're going to do when you grow up?" I said, "No, I really haven't. I mean, my dad's health was bad. So we had this 60-acre farm with these horses and these cows and stuff. All my older siblings had left home. I was kind of running the ranch. I got the other kids. There were other kids around the place besides just Lori, Rhonda, and Cindy. My hands were full. I'm feeding horses before I go to school. I'm tending fences, all this stuff. I said, I haven't had time I don't think about anything. What are you talking about, right? Like, she said, "Well, I know your dad figures a career in horses." And I'm like, no, Ma, no. I said, "Look, I grew up with the horses and the ponies. I didn't have a choice. I mean, I love my horse Major. I love Old Lady and Little Maggie and, but I've had my fill of shoveling stalls. I've been kicked, dragged, tossed, thrown, trampled. No, horses aren't. No, if nothing else, I'm looking for a safer career, right?" By now, we've idled out to the highway, but Mom's still consternated by the crash scene. She says, "Do you mind if I take the long way home? I need to compose myself a little." And she pushed her Peter Jacksons towards me so I could filch one. I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm in no hurry. I can't do anything back there anyways, so whatever." So we're idling along. She's just letting the car idle down the gravel road. It's not kicking up any dust. We're just idling along. She says, "So horses aren't in your career, like in your future?" I was like, "No, I'm thinking something safer." She's like, "Something safer? What would that be?" I said, "Well, I don't know. One of those, what do they call them? Fire jumpers out there in the Rocky Mountains when there's a forest fire. They rappel down out of a helicopter and fight the fire." She's kind of looking at me. I'm like, "Well, maybe the outback in Australia. I'll, skin saltwater crocodiles, poach and skin saltwater crocodiles. Something safer than horses, Ma." She's like, "Really?" I said, "How about them flying Winaldos with the high trapeze act? They walk across the ropes and stuff. She's going, "I think you're thinking of the flying Ronaldos." So, well, whatever. Something safer than horses. She's going, "Oh, like that's safer?" So it's got to be, right? She's like, "Well, they're a family. They're a family crew. You're not a Ronaldo." I said I could marry in. Mother, now we're dropping south to, do the loop back. She's going, thinks about it a while as we're driving along. She goes, "Dentistry." I said, "Say what?" She goes, "Dentistry. Have you considered being a dentist?" I said, "Well, I just told you I'm 13. I'm considering how I'm going to get through the next week on the farm with everything I have to look after in my leg. No, I haven't considered dentistry." By now, we've come out to the other highway. There's two highways that intersect. She looks about. She signals out onto the highway. She's accelerating. She's going, "Hey, you should consider dentistry." "Really? Do you envision me being a dentist, Ma? There's no windows." I don't see it. "They make good money. I said, "Ma, I have not given consideration to anything, I must admit, but I don't see myself being a dentist." "Well, I've never heard of a dentist getting his leg broken." She points at my leg. "In the course of his work day." I'm like, "Ma, dentistry, you should consider it. It's a noble trade." "Okay, Ma." So anyways, we come back in the drive. Ma spills me off and proceeds a little further down with the car. Lori takes the saddles, sprawls out the blankets and pads on the fence to dry out. Saddles on the, we had a big gas barrel for the fuel for the farm. Now Dad proceeds back over, and Mother has returned. We're sitting there under the shade trees. He tears into me. "What's wrong with you, boy?" I'm like, "Say what?" "Well, that mare's came in here with one foot in the grave, and I'm not sure she's going to pull out of it. You should know better." He's taking a strip out of me a mile wide, right? Why retaliate? Do you not know what happened up there? You and your blinking bozzle and this fool mare. And so Dad and I go at it. We're tearing into each other. We're both waiting for Mom to do the which means pull in your horns, gentlemen, but she doesn't say anything. So we proceed to go back and forth, finally with my saying, "Well, I think you better go get the story from Lori before you climb up any further up my hindside, or you're going to be looking for a new hired hand." And again, because Mother hasn't interjected, Dad and I are both a little, and I'm hot. I'm really hot with the old man, right? Because I don't perceive I've done anything wrong. So he retreats to talk to Lori, get the story, and I can see Lori across the yard miming what's happening and gesturing, and the old man nodding his head. Rhonda and Cindy are still doing their things with Fancy. Cindy's now walking her in a small circle down the end of the yard. Fancy's looking, from my distance, like, whew, I think she's going to make it. If she's made it this far, she's probably going to. And that would indeed be the case. Anyways, Dad comes back and he's like, "Well, I guess I didn't really understand what goes on up there. This is as close to an apology as he's going to give." I said, "Yeah, I get that. This is as close as I'm going to apologize in return." Dad and I were oil and water, as Mother would often say. And so Dad kind of shuffles his feet and he's like, "Well, I think the old mare's going to be okay," reference to Fancy, "so I guess I'm just going to leave everything. The girls got it covered, and you're gonna keep, to keep an eye on the heat." "Yeah, Dad, yeah, I'll keep an eye on Misty's, battered knee joint for heat. Not that the girls aren't going to check 82 times a day. And don't worry about my leg, but Mom's going to have to cut the grass, and you're going to have to pay Lori to do the stalls for the next week because I'm lame." This is the first he's heard of it, right? He's like, "Oh, did you get hurt?" "Yeah." "Oh, well, I guess I'll have to pay Lori then and offer board to help out more than what she does." Lori did a lot of work around the place. Again, this is as close to an apology as I'm going to get, and I know it's killing him. I said, "Well, probably be a week before Misty and I are back in shape, and yes, I will continue to work with Misty." "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go off on my way." He gets in the car, goes off on his way. I look at Mum because it was uncharacteristic of her, not totally, but somewhat, to not interject because Dad and I had been really heated, right? She goes, "You and your dad, oil and water. I don't know, these horses. You sure you won't consider dentistry?" I'll leave the chapter here.